Discover the amazing truth, be ice cold or overcome life's heartbreaking challenges forever. The snow fell softly over the small Midwestern town, dusting the rooftops like a delicate sugar coating. Christmas lights twinkled from every window, yet for Sarah, a determined 28-year-old single mother, the season felt less like a celebration and more like a haunting reminder of what she no longer had. Just a few feet away, in the warmth of their tiny living room, Timmy bounced on the couch, his eyes gleaming with the magic of Christmas. "Mom, can we put up the tree tonight? Please?" His voice rang with innocence, carrying a warmth that melted the ice around Sarah's heart. But as she glanced back at the cluttered coffee table, a mountain of bills offset by old ornaments soaked with memories, her spirit sank. She wanted so much to give Timmy that family gathering he dreamed of, the holiday filled with laughter, lights, and love. Yet here she was, juggling 2 jobs at the local diner and grocery store, hands busy but heart heavy. "Just wait a sec, buddy," she said, her voice barely steadying. It wasn't just the pressure of the holidays. It was the looming shadow of her estranged father. Once a proud war veteran, he succumbed to his demons years before, leaving their family tattered. With whispers of judgment floating through town like thin smoke, Sarah battled the stigma alone. She couldn't shake the feeling that his absence had driven a wedge through their family that could never be repaired. As Timmy's excitement tugged at her heart, she remembered their last Christmas together. Her father had been there, albeit a shell of the man she remembered, only making his presence felt through awkward silence and fragmented glances. But the warmth of family was something Timmy longed for, and she had to find a way to make that happen. Just when Sarah thought life was settling into a rhythm, she heard a knock on the door. Her heart raced. There stood her father, looking older yet somehow smaller, claiming to have changed, eager for redemption. Hope flickered, but unease gripped her. Could she let this man back into their lives? The community's whispers echoed in her ears. Could she forgive the man who had abandoned her once before without tearing apart the fragile independence she had fought so hard to build? Before she could spiral any further, the annual community fundraiser approached. As Sarah stood on the makeshift stage, her heart pounded under the spotlight, the anticipation thick in the air. She knew she had to speak, to share her story, not just for her but for those like her in desperate need. "This isn't just about raising money," she began, her voice trembling. "It's about showing that families like mine still matter, that we are not defined by past mistakes." Tension rippled through the crowd, she could feel the weight of their gazes. Would they see her as a resilient woman or as just the daughter of the disgraced veteran? The silence stretched painfully, washing over her like a chill, a deep breath caught in her throat. And then, just when she was ready to collapse, she saw Timmy's bright, hopeful face in the crowd, and her courage surged. Her voice grew stronger as she unraveled the layers of pain, regret, and longing for connection. "We can overcome." Together the tears flowed freely now, unbidden, pooling in her heart as she poured out their story. Yet as she spoke of courage and forgiveness, her father's unexpected revelation threatened to tumble everything she had built into chaos. How could she forgive? Would it truly pave the way for healing or deepen their scars? With emotions running high, Sarah stood there, ready to confront the truth, the final question hanging in the air like an unspoken prayer. Could she reconcile her family's painful past with the hope of a brighter future for Timmy? Standing on that stage, Sarah felt the weight of the world pressing down on her, but amidst the swirling emotions, a flicker of hope danced in her chest. She had bared her soul to the crowd, and now it was time to see if they would respond. Would they understand her struggle? Would they embrace her for who she had become, not the daughter of a fallen man? The thought terrified her. The moments dragged like hours. Finally, the applause erupted, loud and unexpected. It washed over her like warm sunlight breaking through a cloudy day. She glanced at Timmy, who beamed with pride, his tiny hands clapping with glee. In that moment, amidst the cheers, she realized that this was a shift, a new chapter, not just for her, but for her son too. The following days felt surreal. On her way to the diner, Sarah replayed snippets of her speech in her mind. She hadn't just spoken about forgiveness, she had ignited a spark in herself, a newfound strength that lit her path. The community had rallied around her, and there was a shift in the whispers. No longer were they just murmurs of judgment but were now filled with compassion and support. People came into the diner, offering words of encouragement. "You really touched us, Sarah," an elderly woman said while leaving a hefty tip. "We're rooting for you." Each interaction chiseled pieces of her guard away, slowly forging connections she had never thought possible. Still, her father's presence loomed large. She had yet to process their encounter on the doorstep. Would he show up again? What would she say if he did? The uncertainty gnawed at her, but she pushed those thoughts to the back of her mind as she focused on the life ahead. In the evenings, they adorned their tiny apartment with strings of lights. Timmy's laughter filled the air as they intertwined popcorn and cranberries, remnants of family traditions meant to not just celebrate Christmas but to reclaim the joy that had dimmed. A simple moment transformed into a cherished memory as she watched Timmy's eyes twinkle like the lights around him. One afternoon, as she was closing up the diner, she spotted a familiar figure standing just outside the window, his face reflecting the harsh light of the setting sun. It was her father. Her heart raced at the sight of him. He seemed tentative, almost vulnerable. An icy flood of anger mixed with the warmth of nostalgia coursed through her veins. Did he really think he could just return to her life after all this time? In that frozen moment, she felt the entire weight of her past crashing in. Could she really open that door again? Did she owe him forgiveness? She gripped the counter tightly, the cold surface grounding her in a whirlwind of emotion. Summoning courage, Sarah took a breath and walked to the door. As she swung it open, her heart drummed loud in her chest. The words she had rehearsed in her mind slipped away as she locked eyes with him. "I don't know if I can do this," she admitted, vulnerability spilling from her lips. With that admission, a new wave of tension blossomed in the air, heavy with possibility. Her father stepped forward, eyes glistening with unshed tears, ready to finally speak his truth. "Sarah," he began, but as he opened his mouth, time itself seemed to still. Would this be the moment of reckoning she had been waiting for, or a new descent into darkness? The silence between them felt thick, pressing against her chest. Sarah could see the trembling of her father's lips, a silent plea caught in the threads of his intentions. It was all jumbled, regret, fear, maybe even love hung in the air, swirled around as time seemed frozen. "Sarah," he repeated, voice thick with emotion. "I know I don't deserve it, but I need you to listen." She crossed her arms, a defensive shield. Memory surged unbidden, the late-night arguments, the heartbreak, and the man who had left them all behind in pursuit of his demons. Was he really here to share his truth, or was this just another excuse, another hollow promise? Why now? She found herself asking, a bitter edge to her words. "Where were you when I needed you?" He flinched at the truth. His gaze dropped to the ground, and she could see the struggle written all over his face, the years of regret cutting deep. "I was lost, Sarah. I thought I was protecting you by staying away. But the truth is, it only made it worse." Anger flared within her, hot and sharp. "Protecting me from what? From you?" She hesitated, grappling with the torrent of emotion. "You hurt us, Dad." His shoulders sagged under the weight of her words. "I know. I can't change the past, but I'm trying to be better. For you, for Timmy. I need your forgiveness." The mention of Timmy brought a wave of clarity. Her son was everything. The only good thing that had come from her past. Would she really deny him a chance to know his grandfather? The thought both soothed and troubled her. "Do you even understand what you put us through?" She stepped closer, her heart racing. "Do you realize I had to build my world from the ashes you left behind?" "More than you know," he said, finally locking eyes with her. "Every day I wake up, I see a ghost of who I used to be, and it haunts me. I live with that guilt and I'm sorry." His voice cracked, and for a brief moment, she saw the small, wounded boy he must have been. The fear and shame he must have carried like a weight on his shoulders. The man before her was protective and broken. "Apologies don't undo the past," Sarah shot back, though her resolve was wavering. She had spent years building walls around her heart, but was it time to tear them down? I know they can't, he whispered. But I'm here now, and I want to work to earn your trust back. Will you let me? Sarah hesitated. The pulse in her throat betrayed her, throbbing with conflicting emotions. Hope and fear danced a dangerous tango in her chest. Her father had come searching for something, a truth buried deep beneath the pain, but she was terrified of the answer. She wanted to believe in the possibility of redemption but feared the cost of disappointment. I don't know what to say, she admitted, her voice a raw whisper as the uncertainty crept back in. I don't know if I can trust you again. Silence loomed once more, each second stretching out, heavy with unsaid words. Her heart felt like it might burst, as years of pain swirled with the slightest flicker of hope. Then, as the first light of understanding flickered between them, he stepped forward, slowly. Let us start by being honest with each other and ourselves. Can you do that? Can she truly do that? The weight of her decision hovered between them, heavy and unyielding, as the tension thickened around their fragile moment of truth. Maybe we can try, she replied, uncertainty filling the air once again, leaving more questions than answers. As they stood together on the precipice of reconnection, Sarah couldn't shake off the feeling. This could either be the dawn of a new beginning or perhaps the final chapter of a story long torn apart. What if this was just the beginning of something deeper? What if vulnerability led to healing, or would it only deepen the wounds they both carried? With that question hanging heavily in the air, Sarah took a step closer, allowing the possibility of rebirth to come alive. But just then, the phone in the diner rang, pulling them both back from their fragile moment. Who could it be? Would they be a reminder of the past or a gateway into a future they both desperately needed? The phone rang again, sharp and jarring in the quiet diner. Sarah's instincts kicked in, and she glanced at her father, feeling that old mix of anger and worry rise in her chest. This moment felt so fragile, like glass on the verge of shattering. She hated that the simple act of a ringing phone could yank them back to reality, back to the chaos that surrounded them. Her father's eyes drifted toward the phone too, a flicker of anxiety crossing his face. He seemed to ponder the same question, who was on the other end? A customer? An old friend? Or perhaps someone bringing news that would change everything again. It might be Timmy, she said, trying to distract herself from the tension but feeling a pang of hope. She needed to focus on him, on what they could build together instead of the past that threatened to drown them. As she stepped over to the counter, she caught sight of the waitress, a kind woman named Ellen who had watched her grow up. Ellen offered her a warm smile, but Sarah felt a chill creeping in. She wondered how many times this diner had been a backdrop to her broken family. How many meals had they sat through, pretending everything was fine? Hello? Sarah answered, her voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside her. Sarah, the voice on the other end said. It was deep and gravelly, yet oddly familiar. A rush of unexpected recognition sent a shiver down her spine. It's me, Kyle. Sarah's heart skipped a beat. Kyle was her brother, the one sibling she never thought she could lose because of the mess their father left behind. They had drifted apart over the years, but hearing from him now sounded like a lifeline in a tumultuous sea. Hey. I didn't expect to hear from you, Sarah stammered, cautiously optimistic. What's going on? I'm in town, he replied, his tone clipped. I need to talk to you. It's about Dad. A knot formed in her stomach. Would this be an intervention of sorts? More of the family drama she thought she was escaping when she built her little life away from the pain? Is it bad? She asked, glancing back at her father, who stood silently, watching her with those haunted eyes. For a moment, everything threatened to collapse on itself. Would this phone call be the final blow, sending them tumbling back into the darkness they were trying to escape? I don't know how else to say it, but you should probably sit down, Kyle said, a hint of urgency creeping into his voice. There are things about Dad you don't know, things that could change everything. Every muscle in her body tensed. The weight of his words threatened to crush her beneath the surface of her vulnerability. Could she face whatever truth Kyle was about to drop? Okay, Sarah replied, her voice barely above a whisper. I'll be right there. Just give me a minute. She hung up, her heart racing. The look on her father's face hardened as her mother's absence flashed through her mind. Was this another crushing revelation about their father? The fragile progress they'd just made, was it all about to unravel? Who was it? He finally asked, his hands clenched into fists at his side, as if preparing for an onslaught. It was Kyle, she breathed, grappling with her emotions. He wants to talk about you. Something I need to know, something that could change everything. Panic flickered across her father's features. Sarah, please, I didn't mean for any of this to happen. She could see the desperation in his eyes, and for a brief second, the urge to comfort him sparked within her. But the revelation that sat in the dark corners of the diner pulled her down again. Would it truly change everything? Was it a chance at redemption, or a Pandora's box that should remain tightly closed? As she took a deep breath, ready to delve into whatever lay ahead, a new uncertainty gnawed at her. Could she handle the truth? And what would it mean for Timmy? Would she truly be able to bring him into this world, the world that was still so undefined and shaky, threatening to collapse again? The questions hung heavily, ready to spill over in a cascade of emotions. Whatever was coming next, it demanded a reckoning. Would they be strong enough to face it together, or would the chains of their past continue to bind them? The air crackled with tension and unspoken fears as they processed the looming confrontation. A further journey awaited, one that might either lead them down the long road of healing or further into the shadows of their shattered history. The diner felt like a tunnel, closing in around her. Sarah stared at her father, whose face was a shifting tapestry of emotions: fear, regret, and an almost pleading hope that maybe Kyle wouldn't divulge the truth they had tried so hard to ignore. She shifted her gaze to the coffee-stained counter, breathing in the familiar scent of pancakes and syrup. It had once felt like home, but now it was just another reminder of fractured pieces. "Are you sure you want to hear what Kyle has to say?" her father finally asked, his voice trembling. "You don't have to go. We can just forget about it." "Forget about it?" She shot back, the anger bubbling up before she could stop it. "Dad, that's exactly what we've been doing. Running away isn't going to fix anything." His shoulders sagged under the weight of her words. She saw him retreat slightly, like a puppy expecting to be scolded. She felt guilty for lashing out, but her heart thudded hard against her chest. They had danced around this family drama for too long. It was time to put on their brave faces and confront whatever shadow loomed over them. "Fine," her father murmured, his voice barely a whisper. "If you feel you need to hear him, I won't stop you." Sarah looked back at the phone, biting her lip. The solidity of her next move depended on that call from Kyle. Could he offer them clarity, or would it only plunge them deeper into despair? She stepped outside into the cool evening air, needing to think, to breathe. As she walked toward her car, her mind raced. Memories flooded her, running around the family home, Kyle helping her build forts out of couch cushions, laughter echoing down the hall. But those joyful times felt so distant now, lost among the rubble of broken promises. When Sarah reached her vehicle, she hesitated. She realized she was gripping the door handle too tightly. What if she was stepping into a hurricane of revelations? She glanced back at the diner where her father stood alone, casting a long shadow as the sun dipped below the horizon. It hit her then the weight of her father's choices over the years had been a burden they all carried, but perhaps it didn't have to be theirs alone. With a determined breath, she slid into the driver's seat. She fished her phone from her pocket, dialing Kyle's number while the engine purred to life. He answered on the first ring. "Sarah," his voice crackled, sharp with impatience. "Are you on your way?" "Yeah, I'm coming. Just can you tell me what this is about? I need to prepare myself." A thick silence filled the space, extending far too long. "I can't explain it over the phone. You need to see me and hear this face to face. Please. It's important." Hesitation gripped her. What does that even mean? "Just trust me. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't urgent. We'll meet at our old spot by the lake." It's south, the only place I can think where we can talk. Her heart twisted at the mention of the lake. Memories of their childhood spent fishing and swimming there bubbled to the surface, blending melancholy and nostalgia. They'd been so carefree then. Could they recapture even a fraction of that amidst the turmoil of today? Okay, she agreed, her voice soft now. I'll be there. As she drove through the sleepy streets, Sarah's thoughts twisted and turned. Was this conversation going to mend the rift between them or tear them apart even further? She knew what was at stake. If Kyle had something monumental to share, it would change the landscape of their family forever. Pulling up to the empty parking lot by the lake, Sarah's pulse quickened. The air was heavy with anticipation, thick with the whispers of what might come next. She stepped out of the car, her feet crunching against gravel, and as she turned to walk toward the water, she felt the cool breeze brush against her skin, almost whispering reassurances. Kyle was already there, silhouetted against the dying light. In that moment, everything hinged on revealing their truths: the past, the pain, and perhaps a chance for hope. Would they emerge stronger from this confrontation, or would it pull them further apart than they had ever been before? As she approached, her chest felt tight, heavy with uncertainty. She needed to know, but would the truth set them free, or tighten the chains they had thought were breaking? Kyle turned as she neared, his hands shoved deep into the pockets of his worn jeans. The lake behind him shimmered under the last glimmers of daylight, casting a golden hue that felt almost surreal against the tension in the air. Sarah's heart raced as his expression twisted from determination to something softer, more vulnerable. "Thanks for coming," Kyle said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Just tell me what's going on," she urged, a lump in her throat. He took a deep breath, looking out at the water as if it could provide him answers. "It's about Mom. I didn't want to bring this up without, well, without being sure." Her stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" "I found out some things about her, about our family. Things she kept secret. I didn't want to believe it, but just say it. We've all been tiptoeing around this long enough," she snapped, anger flaring up again. It felt familiar, like a lit match in a dark room. Kyle's eyes met hers, filled with a mix of fear and defiance. "I think she might not be who we thought she was. Not in the way we imagined." "What? How can that be true?" The words slipped out like ice knives, painfully cutting through their shared childhood illusions. "She's our mother." "I know." He finally pulled his hands from his pockets and ran a hand through his hair. "But there are things in her past, secrets she buried. When she moved here, she wasn't running to us, Sarah. She was escaping something." Silence stretched between them. The cacophony of their memories faded away, leaving only the sound of the water lapping against the shore. "What are you talking about? Who was she running from?" "I found some letters," Kyle admitted, his voice low, "from someone named Daniel. They weren't meant for us. I think he's someone important to her past." A whirlwind of confusion swirled in her mind. "You read her mail? How could you do that?" "I know it sounds wrong, but I had to. Something didn't feel right. I felt like we were living in this story without knowing the beginning or the end." The sun dipped below the horizon, a reminder of how rapidly things could change. Sarah felt the weight of her past crashing in on her, pressing heavily against her chest. "What does this even mean, Kyle? What am I supposed to do with this information?" "I don't know," he replied, frustration creeping into his voice. "But if we don't figure it out, it could tear us apart even more than we already are. We need to talk to Mom. Get the truth from her. Face it together." Facing it together. The idea was both comforting and utterly terrifying. Could they really challenge their mother with secrets that might shatter their perception of who she was? What if those revelations put them on opposite sides of a chasm from which they couldn't return? A wave of doubt washed over her. What if she denies it? What if we lose her? "That's a risk we've already taken by staying silent," Kyle said, determination sweeping over him. "Secrets aren't just easy to carry. They're heavy. It's time we lighten the load, no matter the cost. She watched as his conviction solidified. What had initially felt like an ice-cold grip of fear slowly transformed into a flicker of hope. They could confront the truth, even if it shattered everything they held dear. A sudden rustle in the bushes nearby made both of them jump, their eyes darting to the sound. The day was fading fast, and so was their window to seek closure. "Let us do it," she whispered, heart pounding in sync with the ripples in the lake. "For us. For Mom." But as they stepped back toward the car, the finality of their decision settled in. Was it truly possible to uncover the truth without losing the pieces of their family they so desperately wanted to protect? They were ready to return to a world filled with revelations, but would it bring them healing or further heartache? As they drove away from the lake, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that the deepest challenges were still ahead, lurking in the shadows. What awaited them when they confronted their mother? Would they find the clarity they sought, or would they unearth something that could change everything they thought about their family? The glow of the dashboard lights illuminated the tension on their faces as they drove. Kyle gripped the wheel tightly, his knuckles white against the dark leather. Sarah stared out the window, her thoughts racing faster than the passing trees, branches whipping by like the doubts clouding her mind. Each mile toward home felt like a step into the unknown. "Do you think she'll be angry?" she asked quietly, breaking the heavy silence that hung in the car. Kyle frowned. "I don't know. She might be defensive. It's hard to say how she'll react when we bring this up. But we can't just ignore it anymore." "Yeah, ignoring it hasn't worked for us," Sarah said, her voice wavering. "But I'm scared of what happens next. What if she tells us to stay out of her business? What if she shuts us down completely? Then we push back." "We deserve answers, not just the shadows of her past," Kyle replied, determination driving his voice like a punch to the gut. As they turned onto their street, Sarah caught a glimpse of their house-warm light spilling out from behind the curtains, a comforting facade that stood in sharp contrast to the chaos inside her mind. The home that once felt so secure now felt like a stage for impending disaster. "I can't believe we're doing this," she muttered, her heart thudding in her chest. "Do you want to wait until tomorrow? Maybe cooler heads will prevail?" Kyle suggested, his gaze darting over to her. "No," she shot back, surprising even herself with the fierceness in her tone. "We can't delay it any longer. If we do, it'll just eat at us." With a deep breath, they parked and stepped out of the car. The air was still, but charged with an energy that sent chills down her spine. "Ready?" Kyle asked, taking her elbow gently as they walked toward the front door. "I guess there's no turning back now," she said, swallowing hard. Inside, the familiar scent of her mother's cooking greeted them like an old friend. The kitchen light was on, illuminating the cozy space that had always felt like home. But tonight, it seemed more like a trap. "Mom?" Kyle called, stepping into the hallway. Silence echoed back, but the faint sound of pots clanging in the kitchen brought them forward. When they entered, their mother stood by the stove, stirring a pot of something rich and fragrant. She looked up, her expression brightening. "There you two are. I was just about to call you for dinner." "Hey, Mom," Sarah said, forcing a smile. "Looks great." "Smells amazing," Kyle added, though it faded under the weight of what they needed to confront. "I'm glad you're home." "I've been looking forward to a family dinner," she replied, beaming. She seemed so blissfully unaware, and for a moment, Sarah's resolve wavered. But then she remembered the letters, the secrets, and the darkness that seemed to pulse just beneath the surface. "Mom," Sarah started, her voice trembling like the leaves against the wind. "We need to talk." Her mother's smile faltered, just for a heartbeat, but it was enough for Sarah to catch the flicker of surprise and perhaps fear in her mother's eyes. "About what, honey?" Kyle stepped forward, a silent partner in this uneasy dance. About your past. And about the letters I found." The kitchen felt suddenly much smaller, as if the walls were closing in around them. The air thickened, charged with unspoken words and unshed tears. "Letters?" Her mother's voice was barely above a whisper now, as if she instinctively knew this conversation could unravel everything. Mom, we know there's more to your story. We've waited long enough to understand, Sarah pressed on, heart racing. The moment hung heavy, and uncertainty gripped her throat. Would the truth bring them together or tear them apart? And in that charged silence, she realized, whatever happened next could change everything. As her mother's gaze dropped to the floor, Sarah felt the ground shifting beneath their feet. What would her mother reveal? Would they find the strength to face it together, or would this be the moment that shattered their family forever? The silence stretched out like a taut wire, ready to snap under the weight of unsaid words. Sarah's pulse raced. She could see the worry clouding her mother's eyes, an instinctive recognition of the storm brewing between them. I don't know what you mean, her mother stammered, her voice faltering as she glanced over to the pot on the stove, as if the simmering contents could save her from the confrontation looming over them. Mom, please, Kyle urged softly. We're not attacking you. We just want to understand. We can't keep dancing around it. The tension coiled tighter, wrapping Sarah in a shroud of anxiety. Her mother's movements slowed, stirring almost mechanically as she fought for composure. Something happened a long time ago, her mother finally said, her voice a thread woven with hesitation. It's in the past, something I thought I left behind. But it's not just your story, it's our story too, Sarah said, trying to keep her voice steady. We're here for you. You can trust us. As her mother hunched over the stove, Sarah caught a glimpse of fragility wrapped in the guise of a mother, and for a moment, her heart ached with a mix of love and fear. What do you want me to say? Her mother whispered, finally turning her gaze toward them, eyes shimmering with unshed tears. What if what I tell you changes how you see me? That's okay, Kyle said, stepping closer. We want the truth, no matter how hard it is to hear. The air grew thick with suspense. Sarah could see her mother's defenses crack, tiny fissures forming in the perfect picture she always upheld. Fine, her mother said, wiping her hands on a kitchen towel as if removing the last shreds of her mask. But you must promise me you'll listen. Promise you won't judge until I finish. Of course, Sarah replied, her heart pounding in anticipation. Her mother inhaled deeply, her hands trembling slightly. There were choices I made when I was your age, choices I regretted. I was young and scared, so I ran away from them. As she spoke, a flood of emotion swept through Sarah, vanishing the fear that held her captive moments earlier. I met someone who showed me a different life, but he had secrets of his own, her mother continued, her voice catching on the edge of a memory. I got lost in that world and lost sight of everything that mattered, including you and your father. But we can't lose ourselves, Mom. We can't let fear dictate our lives, Kyle said, his voice firm yet soft. Their mother's eyes traced back to her children, her expression mingling fear with something softer, maybe regret. I know that now, but at the time, I thought I was protecting you. Protecting us from what? Sarah pressed, feeling the walls around her mother's loneliness slowly dissolve. From the truth of who I really am, who I was, her mother admitted, her voice breaking. From the shame of my past. With that admission, the air thickened again. The truth was surfacing, like bubbles breaking through dark waters, and Sarah felt a rush of fear mixed with an intoxicating hope that maybe, just maybe, they could find a way through this together. I can't keep hiding anymore, her mother whispered, tears beginning to spill down her cheeks. Sarah's heart lifted, aching with something that felt almost like love, a strange bond forming in the space of vulnerability. Then don't, she urged gently, reaching out, her fingers brushing against her mother's trembling hand. And in that tiny gesture, Sarah hoped she was building a bridge back to the connection they had kept at bay for so long. As her mother wiped her tears, an unsteady breath escaping her lips, Sarah caught her glance. What truth are we about to uncover, Mom? What will this unlock for us? And with that, they stood at the precipice of revelation, waiting with bated breath for the answer that could shatter them or rebuild them. What lay ahead was uncertain, but they all knew one thing: nothing could remain the same. The silence echoed in the small kitchen, punctuated only by the bubbling pot on the stove. Sarah could feel the air around them crackle with anticipation, her heart racing. She had reached out, not only physically but emotionally, and now they stood on the edge of something monumental. Her mother's gaze flickered with shadows of her past, an ancient turmoil lurking just beyond her fortified walls. "Mom, please. Just tell us everything," Sarah urged, her voice steady but laced with urgency. She could see the raw emotion written all over her mother's face, twisting with vulnerability and fear. Her mother hesitated, biting her lip as if trying to pull back the memories that threatened to overwhelm her. "I got involved with someone dangerous. I thought it was love, but it was manipulation," she finally whispered, each word slicing the tension like a knife. "He brought me into a world where I lost myself completely." Kyle stepped in, his voice a balm to the heavy atmosphere. "You're safe now. We just want to support you." "No judgment," he said firmly. For a fleeting moment, Sarah caught a glimpse of the girl her mother had once been: wild, spirited, perhaps even reckless. Her heart sank for the girl who had felt so lost that she took a leap into darkness rather than face her fears. "Why didn't you come back?" Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Why stay away if you loved us?" "I was ashamed," her mother confessed, tears spilling over like rain on a stormy day. "I thought you'd be better off without the truth of my mistakes. I thought it was too late to mend things." The raw honesty was like a surge of electricity, and Sarah felt her pulse quicken. There was an openness now, a vulnerability that laid bare the complexities of their family. "Mom," Kyle interjected, that firm tone still present but softened by compassion, "it's never too late. We all make mistakes. It's how we deal with them that matters." With each word, their mother seemed to deflate slightly, the weight of her secrets lifting ever so gradually in the presence of her children's unwavering love. "I didn't think I could handle being the person you needed me to be again. I was terrified of facing you." Yet, there was a spark flickering in Sarah, a determination rising. "You don't have to be perfect. Just be honest with us. That's all we need." Her mother looked up, meeting their eyes for the first time without flinching. "I thought fleeing would protect you, but in the end, all I did was shut you out. I see that now." In that moment, a bridge began to form, transcending the hurt and anger that had simmered beneath the surface for years. Each revelation from her mother felt like a thread drawing them closer in a tapestry of shared experiences. "Can you forgive me?" her mother asked, a fragile plea echoing through the air thick with emotion. A quiet moment passed, filled with unspoken words. Sarah felt her resolve crystallizing. "We're a family. Forgiveness happens, it's what we do," she replied with a shaky smile. Her mother reached for them both, pulling them into a fragile embrace. The warmth of connection enveloped them, as though the walls built from years of hurt were finally beginning to crumble. But even as they stood together, a new question loomed in the shadows of their family's history. "What else are you hiding, Mom?" Sarah asked, her voice soft but resolute. With a heavy sigh and a trembling heart, her mother pulled back slightly and wiped away her tears. "There's more that I never spoke of. The truth stretches far deeper than you know." And as those words hung in the air, a new anxiety crept in, reminding them that the journey to healing was just beginning. What other secrets lay waiting to be uncovered? The silence was thick, heavy with unspoken truths. Sarah stood in the dim light of the kitchen, her mother's face cast in shadows of fear and uncertainty. She could feel the gravity of the moment pressing down on her. The warmth of the cozy kitchen felt out of place against the chill of unresolved history. "What else, Mom?" Kyle asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The stakes were high, and Sarah could feel her heart racing, straining against the weight of the unknown. Her mother seemed to shrink back slightly, as if the words were too heavy to carry. "It's about your father and what really happened when I left." Sarah's breath caught. "What do you mean?" "I thought I was protecting you by leaving him. But I wasn't strong enough to walk away from my own poor choices first," she confessed, her voice trembling. "I thought if I left, I could spare you from his mistakes, from the shadows he cast over our family." "And that's why you never came back?" Kyle interjected, pain laced through his words. Because of him? Yes, her mother replied, resignation thick in the air. But it was also because I was scared of my own failures, scared of disappointing you. Mom, Sarah said, her heart racing. Love doesn't come with conditions, it should never be about fearing disappointment. You needed to know we could handle the truth. Handling the truth? Her mother echoed softly. I feared I would only burden you both with my mistakes. In that moment, Sarah felt a swell of compassion for the girl her mother once was, lost in a world of hurt. They were all tied together, intertwined in the chaos of each other's fears. Mom, we want you here. We want you to be a part of our lives. But we can't do that if you keep hiding, she implored. The tears that had been pent up spilled freely now. I want to be part of your lives. I do. But the fear of it all remains, a long shadow that still looms over us. Then let us confront it together, Kyle said, his eyes fierce with determination. This isn't just your past, it's ours now too. We can't fix what we don't understand. Sarah nodded in agreement, feeling a strength build within her. How can we heal if we stash everything beneath the rug? It's time we face what's lurking there. You're right, her mother said, fresh resolve filling her gaze, but there's something else you should know. It's not just about your father. It's about your grandmother too. There are things no one ever told you, choices I made that stem from my own childhood nightmares. Sarah's heart raced. What are you saying? I didn't just run from your father, her mother confessed, her voice trembling with the weight of vulnerability. I was running from my own mother. I was trying to escape a cycle I thought I couldn't break, and I didn't want you to live through that. The revelation hit like a flood, overwhelming and disorienting. So you left because you were afraid of repeating the same mistakes? Kyle asked, a dawning realization creeping into his tone. Exactly. But what I didn't realize was that in trying to protect you, I ran right into the trap of my own broken past. One lie followed another, and soon I was stuck in shame, her mother replied. In that moment, time froze. All the pieces began to connect: the abandonment, the fear, the anger that had rooted itself deep within their family. Sarah could feel the foundations of their truth shaking, but she also sensed a glimmer of hope. What if embracing this truth could set them all free? Mom, we're here for you now. We can build something different together, Sarah said softly, stepping forward and resting her hand on her mother's shoulder. With a shaky breath, her mother looked into their eyes, and for the first time, she truly saw them not as children lost in the chaos, but as fully realized people willing to confront the storm together. Will you help me tell the truth? Help me break my cycle? Her mother pleaded, tears glistening in her eyes. Of course, Sarah assured her, her heart pounding with the binding threads of family. We'll walk this path together, we'll face whatever comes next as a family. They can't stop us this time, Kyle said firmly. We are stronger together. In that kitchen, beneath the flickering warmth of lights that had once felt like a barrier, they stood united at the threshold of a new beginning. The fear that had governed their lives for so long began to lift, replaced with a resolve to move forward. Together, they stepped outside. The crisp night air greeted them like an old friend, wrapping them in a promise of rejuvenation. As they embraced the uncertainty of their future, the laughter, the healing, the stories yet to be uncovered, Sarah felt a transformation beginning to stir deep within her heart. They had begun to write a new narrative, one rooted not in fear, but love, strength, and forgiveness. And as they took their first steps into this new chapter, she knew they could weather whatever storm lay ahead together. Now, the time is ripe for you to take action. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep our community alive. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this incredible ending. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Your support means everything, and only true fans understand the importance of rallying together. Let us spread hope and healing, one story at a time.